Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0 and we are back in new fanfic. What if Naruto was abandoned by his family and reborn as a legendary Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Flashback. Naruto was at Capsule Corp training in his gravity chamber with Caulifla and Kale, sparring with the two of them. He was taking a break after training for the last several hours. He was minding his own business when out of nowhere Caulifla walked up to him with Kale trailing behind, slowly bringing his arm in between hers with Kale taking his other between hers, albeit a little reluctantly. You seem to be thinking about something if you're staring off into space there. What do you think? She asked, gesturing to her chest. Naruto started sputtering with an immense blush, not knowing what to say as he was embered for being in this situation. He had liked what he was seeing though. Caulifla was laughing at his expression. She found it to be cute despite him being a warrior. It was at this time, Bulma walked in to check on Naruto. When she saw Naruto, Caulifla, and Kale's positions annoyed her. Hey, what do you think you're doing to him? She called out, annoyed at the situation. Oh, nothing, just letting him get a feel of once he becomes our mate. What's the problem? Caulifla asked, innocently. Mate. Like hell he'll be your mate. Bulma yelled at the duo Saiyans who were grinning, while Caulifla was grinning and Kale was blushing up a storm. What are you gonna do about it, huh? She smirked in a knowing manner. Bulma seemed to not think about it as she marched up to him. She grabbed the collar of his shirt and slammed her lips against his, instantly slipping her tongue as he easily returned it and added his own, swapping spit between each other. After a few minutes, they pulled away for air with immense blushes on their faces. That is what I'll do. She smirked, but realized what she just did and looked at Naruto, but relaxed when she saw him smile at her. End flashback. They talked after that and started dating not long after. She also told Caulifla and Kale that if they're interested in him, they have her approval, which shocked him with his jaw dropping when he heard her say that. He didn't expect Bulma or any of the others to want to share, being how territorial he knew they could be, but he couldn't deny he had developed feelings for them, but more so for the scientist having known her longer. Caulifla was bold and wasn't afraid to say what she thought was hot to him. Kale was more gentle and wasn't like Caulifla, but her opposite, which was cute in his opinion. Bulma was one who liked both to be treated gently and rough. He promised to take them on dates when they weren't busy getting the S ready for Namek. Now we find everyone including Goku who had his whole body bandaged up. There was Bulma, Roshi, Chi-Chi, Gohan, Krillin, himself, Caulifla, and Kale. How long until the S is ready so we can plan at Namek? Krillin asked. The S is being worked on as we speak. It took some time to get it figured out, but we're looking to have everything done in 2 weeks. With Naruto's clones helping with the building process, it's going much faster than if it was just me and my dad. Bulma said, much to everyone's surprise that Naruto could create clones. Clones? Kale asked. Yeah, they're called shadow clones. They're really helpful with that regard, along with studying, since anything the clone learns, when it dispels the original will learn. He said, with a shrug, when he sweat dropped seeing everyone, especially Chi-Chi, looked at him with wide eyes, and the wife of Goku was looking at him with stars in her eyes like she won the jackpot. Teach Gohan that technique please. She demanded while shaking him non-stop, making him dizzy. Oh okay. I'll try to teach him, but we'll see if he can or not. Because it'd be harder to do it with Ki, since I use something else aside from Ki for my clones. He stated, still getting out of his dizzy state. Another source. Isn't Ki something that everyone uses? Caulifla asked, raising her eyebrow, being confused. Are you not a Saiyan then completely? Kale asked. I'm a Saiyan, that much is true, but it's complicated. Anyway, The other energy source I can use is called chakra, which is the combination of my spiritual and physical energies which allow me to do things like the shadow clones or the fireball I used against you too. He explained, getting nods from them. That's right. You spat out a giant fireball at us during our fight. I've been wondering how you did that. Caulifla said, shocking everyone. You spat out a fireball? Bulma asked, but sighed remembering when he explained everything to her about his past. Yeah, I'll explain that another time, but for now we can talk about who's all going to Namek, since I don't want too big of a group going. Naruto said, getting as everyone agreed. I'm going since I'm helping build it and can repair it should anything happen during the trip. Bulma said, volunteering herself. I'm going too. I'm curious to see what the Namekians are like. That and someone needs to make sure that she'll be safe. He grinned, pulling her closer by the waist, which made her grin at him. Caulifla and Kale looked at each other having a silent conversation before they also gave their answers. We're going to. We want to help you guys with this and help mend the damage we helped cause here. Kale said with conviction, making everyone smile at their sincereness. Not only that, but we can't let you two have all the fun now, can we? Caulifla grinned at the duo, smashing her fist into her palm. Everyone nodded and was great with the ones who volunteered, as it made them relax knowing they were strong and could get it done, but there was one person who was looking down at his hands in contemplation. Sweetie, are you alright? Do you have a stomach ache? Chi-Chi asked her son, who was gripping the sheets tightly as if he was trying to say something. Naruto could see the look in the kid's eyes and knew what he wanted to say, so he would let this play out if he'd be able to do it. I want to go with them too. He finally said, surprising everyone except for Naruto, who suspected something. You're kidding, right, Gohan? You're still hurt. I mean, why do you want to go? Bulma asked, since Chi-Chi was still in shock. I want to go. I owe to Mr. Piccolo for saving my life when he took the attack instead of me. He answered, which knocked Chi-Chi out of her stupor. Absolutely not. I just got my baby boy back and now you want to leave me again by going off to another planet. I don't think so, young man. She shouted, not wanting to be gone without her son any longer than he already was. I need to do this, Mom. Piccolo saved my life and I want to be the one who helps bring him back. Please, Mom. He begged his mother, who had a look of conviction in his eyes still. No, I won't allow it. You're going to stay here and catch up your studies that you've missed the whole year. She shook her head frantically. Chi-Chi, I think you should let him go. He's really determined about this and it would mean the world to him if you supported this, and besides, Naruto will be with him along with the others and I know he'll look after our son. Goku was smiling at his son's loyalty to his friend. Chi-Chi looked at Goku in surprise, not expecting him to be okay with this, but he did have some good points with Naruto there, he would no doubt be safe. After several minutes going over her thoughts, she relented with a sigh before she looked at her son with a serious expression. Okay, fine. I want you to promise me though that you will be safe and not do anything crazy, okay? We don't know what's out there and your father is right that Naruto can watch out for you, but I have two conditions for this, am I clear? She demanded with a stern tone. What are those conditions, Mom? Gohan asked nervously, hoping it wouldn't be anything too weird. I want you to study while you're gone, and with the clone technique that you'll be able to learn, it would make things easier and make me feel better. She said with her son nodding and looking at Naruto, who nodded back with a smile of his own. I can do that in the second one? He asked less nervously now. I want Krillin to go too, since I know him better than Naruto, Caulifla, and Kale. Despite me trusting Naruto, I don't know him as well. She said with Krillin not expecting to be brought into the conversation, but could understand her reasoning. We can make that work. 6 people is doable, as it wouldn't change our plans for the S. Bulma commented. I'll look after the little guy, no problem, so what's next until the S is ready? Krillin asked, now with everything planned out. I'll be spending the next 2 weeks with Gohan here working on the shadow clone technique, so which means we'll be building up your reserves until they're at an acceptable level, because as it is now, you could make only 1 or 2 clones at most before you'd be exhausted, and we don't want that happening. Of course, I don't want you making too many anyhow, just where you won't get as tired from making the clones. He explained, getting nods from everyone, but a question came to Goku's mind. Hey Naruto, what would happen if someone used that technique without the proper energy reserves for it? He asked, making everyone look at him, wondering why he'd ask something like that. Since it won't be from chakra when he'd use this technique and his ki, the consequences won't be the same as if someone like me did, but the person would die, since in my home planet people can't live without chakra in them. He explained, getting shocked looks from everyone. But Gohan will be alright with using it, won't he? Chi-Chi quickly asked, not wanting her son to die because of her wanting him to learn it. No, he won't. He'd just be exhausted, which is why I said we'll be working on getting his reserves up, by doing different exercises that will help them get bigger. So, there's nothing to worry about. He urged her as she sighed in relief, knowing her son would be okay. Alright, with that being said, we'll meet over at Kame House in 2 weeks. Bulma declared as everyone agreed with the location. As everyone was heading out, Caulifla and Kale approached Naruto, wanting answers now that they know he's from another planet instead of Earth. So another planet, huh? When were you going to tell us about that, mister? Caulifla narrowed her eyes at her mate, who was sweating from her intense stare. Well, Bulma, some help? He asked his girlfriend, who shook her head at him. Nope. You started this, you need to finish this on your own. Good luck, babe, but girls, don't be so hard on him. She told them, making him relax a little, but he still didn't feel entirely safe from their wrath, as Kale wasn't looking too happy either, but more curious about his home planet than annoyed like Caulifla was. Well, what do you want to know about it? I haven't been there in years, so I don't know what it'd be like now, as I'm sure things would have changed by now. He said as they continued to stare at him. What's the name of the planet, and can you tell me at least the main points? Is it like Earth? Caulifla asked, wanting to know after thinking for a few minutes. Well, it's divided up into 5 major villages, with the rest with minor villages being much smaller. The major villages are the 5 great villages, with the first one being Sunagakure, the land of wind, Kumogakure, the land of lightning, Iwagakure, the land of stone, Kurigakure, the land of water, and lastly Konohakagure, the land of fire, which was my home. Just like I mentioned, the people there use chakra, and they can learn to utilize it in the academy to become shinobi when they graduate. With each village, he explained quickly, not wanting to bore them. Shinobi. That's their form of military, then I take it? She asked to see him nod. Why are they named after elements? Kale asked, being confused about that. Well, every shinobi is more attuned with the element they were born in, like if you were born in Kumo, then your element affinity would most likely be lightning, or in Konoha most shinobis tended to have affinities for fire. He said, making them give, oh, as their responses, catching onto what he was saying. Are they strong? They must have strong fighters, right? Caulifla asked, grinning at the prospect of fighting a shinobi. I mean, yeah, but they won't be like us who can use ki, but there are many strong shinobis there you could fight against if you wanted to. He shrugged his shoulders, used to her desire to fight people. Yes. She pumped her fist in the air. We'll have to visit, so I can see for myself. She grinned in anticipation. Kale noticed him flinching at the thought, something that Caulifla didn't notice, but she did, and it only made her wonder what could have possibly happened to get him to react like that to merely visiting his old home. She would need to talk to him alone about it. Maybe. We'll have to see. Right now, we should worry about preparing for Namek. While I have a clone with Gohan, I can train with you too. He said, hoping to change the subject, and by the expression on Caulifla's face getting bigger, it worked. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. She yelled as she started dragging him off, before her stomach along with his decided to make themselves known, making them blush in emberment with how hungry they must be. After we get something to eat, we can train afterwards. Kale giggled seeing their embered blushes. Let's go eat. I'm hungry myself, she said as they nodded as they left the hospital. 2 weeks later. Nothing much had happened in the 2 weeks for everyone except they were preparing for the trip to Namek. Bulma and her father had as predicted managed to finish the S that could now fit up to 10 people. Bulma and Naruto went on some dates during that time and they went to an expensive restaurant, Bulma's idea, and they had a great time. They talked about Naruto's family as he never talked about them in the past, but also talked about his different teachers that he had and how he did miss them. To say, she was pissed about how his supposed godfather would nearly ruin his family for a prophecy by putting his parents in an illusion that made them forget about him. He was able to calm her down, but it took some convincing to do and more dates which he had no problem with. Despite only dating for a few weeks with Bulma, they had known each other for much longer and so were more comfortable in being more intimate than with the others. One night they were at home after having gone out for dinner. They decided to settle down to watch a movie. They decided to take things to the next level. Flashback. Naruto and Bulma were in the living room watching a movie while they were cuddling. As the movie progressed, Bulma turned towards her boyfriend and kissed him on the lips, which was returned immediately. It didn't take long for tongues to come into play as they battled for dominance, but as usual Naruto won it. They pulled apart after a few minutes for air. You could see their cheeks were flushed, but smiling, and he had a huge grin on his face. What was that for? Not that I'm complaining, but it was unexpected, he said looking at her. I have something important to tell you. It's something I have been thinking about for the last couple of days and well, she trailed off nervously, biting her lip, making him look at her in worry. Is everything okay, babe? He asked worriedly, but to his relief she shook her head. I'm fine. I want you to take me now, she admitted through a blush on her cheeks that would match a tomato. This surprised him. They were planning on waiting before everything settled down for after their trip to Namek before they did it, but she must have become too impatient. Are you sure? He asked, wanting her to be sure about this. I am, she said with determination that he loved about her. End flashback. 2 weeks later. Naruto spent the 2 weeks teaching Gohan how to use the shadow clone technique with ki, as he had figured out how to do it, but he preferred to do it with chakra since it was easier for him to do it. After mastering it in 2 days, Naruto spent the rest of the time working him to the bone on different exercises that would drain his reserves and expand them. At first he could summon 3 clones, but by the end of the 2 weeks he could summon 6 before he was tired from it. And that was enough, as he only needed a few of them for his studies, as he could now focus on his training while the clones did the studying for him. Chi-Chi was so happy and thankful that she hugged him excitedly, but had nearly broken his back with how strong she was without even realizing it. Naruto got to know the bald monk a bit more and found him to be really funny and someone you could count on. He was looking forward to working with him. And lastly, his 2 female Saiyan girlfriends. He had spent most of his time outside of going on dates with Bulma and hanging out with Krillin. He would be training with the 2. He pushed them beyond their limits, cursing his name and calling him a sadistic bastard. Well, Caulifla did anyway, while Kale would pout her cute face at him and grumble about him not getting any hugs from her and such, but they wanted to train, not have a good time. Speaking of their relations, it had gotten better for the 3 of them. He and Caulifla had several makeout sessions that had nearly escalated to them having. It wouldn't be much longer until she'd want kids, as she had told how she had always wanted a family and their Saiyan instincts were starting to get control of them. With Kale, she was wanting to take things slower as she was more timid than her surrogate sister. She wasn't a fan of going out on dates, so they spent the night watching some movies, which was nice, relaxing, and still romantic. He found out that she was more gentle when they'd do anything intimate such as kissing and loved to cuddle. Though it took some time for her to get comfortable enough, but it worked out. Now everyone was gathered at Kame House except they were missing the 5-year-old Saiyan to see them off on their journey. So how are the girls treating you, Naruto? Krillin asked, wondering how his friend was handling 3 girlfriends. Hee hee. They're great and I love them, but between you and me they can be a little nuts. He whispered the last part to him, but was hit in the head by a toolbox. What the hell? How the hell do I feel any pain from that? I can tank ki blasts, yet a toolbox hurts me. He questioned himself. What did you say about us? Caulifla yelled, smirking as she gave Bulma a high five making him groan from it. Kale was looking at them and chuckling knowing that this is her life, but she wouldn't wish for it to be any different. Look. I think I see them. Roshi pointed at the air car that's approaching the island, making Naruto sigh in relief. Oh thank God, he muttered under his breath. They watched as the car landed and were waiting for Gohan to come out, but were surprised to see him wearing something as if he was going to a private school or something similar to a uniform. It took everything Naruto had to not laugh at the poor kid, but sadly it wasn't the case for some of the others who didn't have the same self-control as he did. Ha 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 ha. What the hell are you wearing, kid? We're not going to school. Caulifla laughed out loud as Kale was chuckling, but holding back on laughing outright. Oh don't be so mean to him, I think he looks absolutely handsome. Chi-Chi gushed at her son's look. Dad thought I looked funny too. Gohan grumbled as he looked down at his clothing, remembering his dad laughing. Hey, it's no problem kid. Now that everyone's here, we should get going. Right Bulma dear? He asked, as he saw her nod at his question. Right. Let's go, everyone, she declared as everyone boarded the S leaving Chi-Chi, Ox King, and Roshi left. Be careful son. Krillin, Naruto you better protect my baby boy or there will be hell to pay, do you hear me? She screamed at them as they nodded frantically, not wanting to anger her. Everyone straps yourselves in, we're going to be taking off shortly and I don't want to hear any complaints about not being warned. Bulma said seriously in her tone. It didn't take long for everyone to find a seat. Once everyone was situated, Bulma started the S and after running through things, they took off leaving the island and not long after were they in the atmosphere which was bumpy for everyone except for Caulifla and Kale who were used to these things. Once they were out of the atmosphere, she unstrapped her seat belt with the others following suit. Okay. So from this point on, it'll be smooth riding from here on out. So until then, why don't I show everyone around the S? Naruto, can you watch the S while I saw them around? She asked her boyfriend who nodded affirmatively. She thanked him quickly as she led everyone else to give them the tour. Now that I have the time, let's see how this goes. He said to himself, as he went through familiar hand signs for a jutsu he hadn't used in years. Kuchio's number jutsu, he said, slamming his hand on the ground with a puff of smoke. Out of the smoke came a familiar-looking slug that was looking around noticing she was in an unfamiliar room. Where am I? Katsuya asked, looking around confusedly. Hello Katsuya-sama. It's been a long time. She heard a voice. Turning around she saw someone that was unfamiliar to her. She hadn't seen this man before as she would have remembered someone like this, especially the tail that she was seeing that was around his waist. Who are you? She asked, wanting to cut straight to the point. It's me, Naruto, he said timidly, not sure what to expect, but was surprised when she gasped and crawled closer to him, offering his arm. She slid on it till she got to his shoulder so she could get a better look at him. Naruto-kun, is it really you? What happened to you? It's been a few years since anyone has heard from you, but how are you so different? She asked her summoner, who sighed. That's a long story. I'll do my best to explain everything and why I look this way and much older than I should. He told her who nodded. He went on to explain how he was transported to a new planet like everyone was told. What they didn't know was that his appearance had changed to become something more than human. How he was turned into a Saiyan, where he's been training with Guardian of Earth for the last 11 years, well 13 if you count the time he spent in the hyperbolic time chamber. And what he's been doing since he finished his training, with how he had fought some Saiyans who were wanting to destroy the planet, but were stopped by him and his friends, and now they were heading to another planet to find some special orbs that can be used to bring back their friends. He left out seeing 3 women since he would get pummeled by his mother and godmother for being a pervert, in their words. After he finished explaining everything, she just looked at him blankly for a minute before sighing. Naruto-kun, you sure have lived an interesting life on Earth. I'm happy that you're alright though, with everyone being worried about you and if you were safe. Your parents have missed you so much and are really sorry about everything and wanted to assure you that what they did wasn't their own doing. She said, but he smiled at her. I already know, Katsuya. I was made aware of everything by Yami and Kami that it wasn't their fault and that it was all the perverts doing. I'm glad that they still care about me and love me. I miss everyone too, he said with her nodding. You said you've been living on Earth for 11 years, right? She asked, getting a nod from him. Naruto-kun, it's been 5 years for us since you disappeared. She revealed, getting a shocked look from him. 5 years? He yelled in shock at hearing the time difference for him and them being that different. Yes. It's shocking to hear that, I know, but it's true. She said with a nod. Wow. How's everyone else been? Kasumi, Narumi, Makoto, Fugaku, Tsunade, Hiruzen, Shizune, everyone. He asked. I'm sorry to say, Naruto-kun, but Fugaku died 3 years ago when he tried to stop a coup that his clan was planning against the village. She told him solemnly, making his eyes go wide at the news. He was like an uncle or a second father to him when he was training him. How's Makoto handling everything? Is she okay? Is my mom helping her with her loss? He asked her quickly, wanting to know what's come of his second mother figure and other godmother. She did. It wasn't easy for her to move on, but she did. She's the clan head until Itachi is ready. Everyone else has been fine. There were multiple survivors in the clan that were against the coup like Fugaku. She said, getting a sigh in relief from him. What would like me to do now? Do you want to let everyone know you're okay and that they don't need to worry about you? She asked. Yes, but don't tell them about my changes, as I want that to be a surprise if I ever visit them. I think it would be good to do that after we do what we came to do on Namek. Nothing more if you could, Katsuya? He asked. Seeing her nod, he smiled at her as she disappeared in a puff of smoke, indicating she was gone. To think so much had changed in 5 years for them, but it was 11 for me. I'll be sure to visit everyone, especially you, Makoto-chan. He said to himself when he felt a pair of arms wrap around his neck and 2 heads on his shoulders. He looked to reveal Bulma, Kale, and Caulifla. They had overheard a good part of the conversation and they were just as shocked to hear the time difference. Hey girls, I'm alright. How'd you guys like the S? He asked them, seeing Caulifla grin at him. Oh, I'm going to love this place, and it's all thanks to my boyfriend and my harem sister for this. She grinned at him. I have a question though about that slug. What was it exactly? How did it get on the S? Kale asked quietly and curiously. That was Katsuya, and she was the boss of the slugs that I signed a contract with to aid me in battle should I ever need it. She specializes in acid and healing. She, along with my godmother Tsunade and her apprentice Shizune Kato, taught me everything there was about medical ninjutsu. Maybe you'll get to meet them sometime. He said with a smile at that thought. I'm sure they're great people. I hope to meet them someday. Why did you summon her now of all times though? Bulm asked. Well, now that I had time to do it, since I've never had a moment to do it until now with all the training I did, schooling I was doing, and dealing with the Saiyans until now, I have a little time. He explained, getting nods. Enough of that, we got some training to do Naruto, so now we have the time, let's get to it. We have a month before we get to Namek and I don't want to waste any time doing it. Caulifla yelled out in excitement. Alright, just remember you asked for it. He smirked. A month later. 1 month now had gone by since they left Earth and they were finally getting to planet Namek. The first thing that Gohan did was change clothes with ones that he had secretly packed without his mom knowing, which made him laugh at the kid's sneaky side. He wore the same outfit that Piccolo wore and explained how he wore it to honor him and how he respected him almost as much as his father. Not a lot was done with Naruto and the others except he would train everyone except for Bulma, who was making sure the S had no problems. He was pushing everyone more, so they could be prepared for anything that could happen. They had found out that the gravity machine that was installed could go up to 200 times Earth's normal gravity, but he only went to 60 with Gohan and Krillin since they were slow on getting used to each level, and Kale and Caulifla he managed to get 150 times, which was good given he didn't want them to just be used to it, but to be able to do anything with ease in that kind of gravity. They all had grown stronger over the month, but the two female Saiyans had really grown in the 1 month. It was getting harder to spar with them as they were improving quickly. Every time they improved, he'd have to push out more power to push them. Bulma had installed robots that could shoot lasers at them and Naruto had them dodging their attacks as he wanted to work on their reflexes and agility while under the gravity to make it harder for them. Of course he hadn't forgotten to do his own training. He'd been training at 200 times the gravity. He wanted to shape his ki into different weapons and so far he'd managed to do 2 weapons, finding the ability to do it unique as not many, if there were any, could do it with enough control. He also pushed his body to the limit as he decided to add seal weights to make it even more challenging for him, which he welcomed. He almost regretted it, because as soon as he activated them while under the gravity chamber's pressure, he nearly collapsed, but he loved the challenge. He also realized how his power level had increased a lot, but he didn't know how much since he hadn't used his full power in a long time. He didn't use it against Caulifla, Kale, or Nappa since he didn't need to. Now everyone was in their seats as Bulma had informed everyone that they were approaching Namek. Caulifla and Kale were wearing their usual clothes along with Krillin with his orange GI and Gohan with his clothes that resembled Piccolo's. Naruto's however had changed as he was wearing a black form-fitting short-sleeved shirt and black pants with black kung fu shoes and blue stockings. He also wears a flowing red vest with a long back side that is secured with a blue obi tied over it at his waist and blue armbands. Think Xeno Goku's outfit. Alright guys, strap yourselves in, we're about to enter the atmosphere, which will make it bumpy getting in. She said to them. It's been an interesting month, don't you think so guys? I've learned a lot from Naruto-sensei. Gohan said. True. It would be better if he wasn't a sadist. Krillin whispered to them, making them snicker with Naruto pouting having heard that. Hey, I'm not that bad, he shouted comically at him, making everyone laugh. It's not a bad thing. It just means you want us to be strong and can push us. Caulifla said, trying to cheer him up. He certainly never took it easy on us. He's still gentle though outside of training. He's such a teddy bear. Kale teased at the end. Kale of all people teased him. Think about that for a second. We're coming into the atmosphere now. Bulma yelled out. I don't want to die. We're all going to die. Krillin screamed, panicking from the rough entrance as the S was shaking, but was shut up when Caulifla punched him in the face, knocking him out in his seat as she was getting annoyed with his constant yelling. They didn't have to wait long for the shaking to stop, making them sigh in relief knowing that the rest of the landing would go easier from this point on. They were able to land and Naruto was looking forward to meeting the Namkians and hoped they would let them use their Dragon Balls. Alright, before we can leave the S, I need to check to make sure it's breathable for us, or if we need to be careful if it'll be too dangerous for us to do. Bulma was explaining when she looked up to see only Naruto there, who was chuckling when he pointed to the window when they saw Gohan, Krillin, Caulifla, and Kale outside already. She was about to yell in frustration, when he silenced her with a kiss that she melted in and soon turned into a small makeout session. Not that I'm complaining, but what was that for? She asked breathlessly. To calm you down. You should have known they'd do something like this. That and I need to have a reason to kiss my girlfriend. He asked, while smirking at her blushed face, but had a wide grin on her face. True. Alright, let's go meet with the others and we can get started on looking for the Dragon Balls. She said, leaving to follow the others with him doing the same. Okay. First we should put away the S, so we don't risk damaging it. Naruto said as they all nodded and Gohan pushed the button changing it into its capsule and had Bulma hold onto it. Let's see. She was cut off by two people who approached them, but they weren't friendly looking. They had the same armor that Vegeta had, which instantly made them assume they were enemies. Look what we have here. Some tourists on this backwater planet. The first one mocked. Right, but look at those two. Aren't they the ones who were with Vegeta and Nappa? They must be the Saiyans who Vegeta thought was gone. The second person pointed out. Well, what do we have here? Some traitors it seems like. Lord Frieza would love to have a word with you too. The first guy smirked evilly, making them sweat and fear at hearing the name Frieza, confusing Gohan and Krillin, but Bulma and Naruto were already aware of who that was. Now come with us, so we can. He was silenced when Naruto appeared in front of him holding his hand out in front of him. He didn't say anything as he blasted him with a ki blast, incinerating him instantly as the other guy watched in fear at seeing his friend killed with no difficulty. Naruto turned towards his opponent and disappeared. He looked around having no idea where he went until he felt something behind him, but it was too late as a ki blade came to life, stabbing him in the back, going through where his heart would be, killing him instantly. Well, this situation just went from bad to worse if Frieza is here, or at least his forces. Naruto stated with a frown. He must be here for the Dragon Balls. He must be wanting immortality like Vegeta does, so it'll be harder to get them from here on out. Any ideas? Caulifla asked, trying not to panic at having to deal with Frieza's army. I don't own Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super. Biju Kami, Yami, Shenron talking. Regular talking. Chapter 5. Conflicts. Naruto and the others had managed to get to a small cave where they could hide from being seen and discovered by Frieza. Learning that he was here for the Dragon Balls to wish for immortality didn't sit well with anyone, especially Naruto, knowing the kind of damage that he could do with being immortal. What are we going to do now? With Frieza here, it'll make it damn near impossible to get them. Caulifla asked calmly, trying not to panic about the tyrant being here. We'll need to be more careful about how we go about this. If we rush in, it'll only be bad with us getting killed. Even if I went full power against him, I don't think I would stack up against him. What's the PLA? Krillin was cut off when they all sensed a large amount of power that was coming towards them. Quick everyone, lower your power level now. Naruto ordered quietly, but sternly for everyone to notice how serious he was. They watched as several figures ped by them, with a few which lasted a couple of minutes until the coast was clear and they could all breathe normally again. Holy crap. Did you feel that, guys? Krillin yelled out in shock. I think everyone did, Baldy. Caulifla shouted with sweat pouring down her head, with Kale not doing much better. Naruto noticed they weren't calming down and were starting to hyperventilate, walked over to them and pulled them into a hug as they buried their faces in his chest as they slowly, but surely started calming down. After a few minutes, he pulled away and looked at them in worry. Is that better? He asked softly. Why, yeah, Kale said quietly, enjoying the warmth he gave her. I'm fine. No need to get so sweet with me, Whiskers. She waved him off. But it felt nice of him to worry about me. She thought to herself. Krillin, Gohan, you two alright? He asked, seeing them nod. He checked over at Bulma, who was looking concerned, but overall she was fine. Okay. We know that was Frieza and his men, but where were they heading? He asked. Did you guys see what some of them had in their arms? Gohan asked. When they all, but Bulma nodded. Yeah, they looked like the Dragon Balls, but were much bigger than the ones we had. They had 3 already and were heading somewhere. Krillin said, when he got an idea. Bulma, can you check with one of the radars to see if there's a Dragon Ball in that direction? He pointed where they were all heading towards. She nodded at what he was thinking about and did as asked. She was able to pick up the 3 that were collected already in one location. They seemed to be moving towards a 4th one, making her nervous. Guys, they are heading towards another Dragon Ball's location, she said nervously. Do you think they have a dragon radar too? Kale asked, hoping that wasn't the case. We don't know for sure, but we can't let them get another Dragon Ball, so here's what we're going to do. Me, Krillin, and Gohan will go to their location and scout them out. I can possibly hold my own against Frieza if push comes to shove, but I'd like to avoid fighting him for now. He said, with them looking at him like he's gone insane. That doesn't sound like a good idea at all. Are you insane? Bulma shouted, coming into the conversation. You'll get yourself killed that way. She yelled in anger on her face. I'll be fine, Bulma. It's only as a last result, but it won't come to it. I promise. He urged her as she stared at him, narrowed before sighing and smiling at him. Fine, but you better be safe and come back to me. She told him, who nodded with determination. What about us? Khalifa asked, wanting some action. Why don't you guys stay here for the time being and wait for us, since we'll have more information by then, that way we can make a decent plan. Naruto told her, which she grumbled under her breath, but nodded, seeing the logic in his words. Fine, but we better get to fight soon. I'm itching for some payback on some people, she said with a smirk. He nodded and looked to the two as they nodded, and they flew off towards where Frieza went. Bulma and the girls watched them leave as a worried look came across her face. Kale noticed this and put a hand on her shoulder. He'll be fine. You've known him much longer than us, so you should trust him to come back safely with the others, she said with a roaring smile. Thank you, Kale. It's just this Frieza guy is crazy strong and much stronger than Vegeta. I'm worried that he'll be caught by him, Bulma said, worry on her face. Kale and Khalifa didn't know what to say to that, having seen Frieza's power firsthand, knowing how powerful. All we can do is trust that our man will be okay, but I believe in him to come back to us. Or else he'll get his kicked by me, Khalifa yelled out, making them chuckle. Back with Naruto, Krillin, and Gohan, they had managed to take the radar and find where Frieza was, but they hid behind a ridge to avoid being caught. What they saw horrified them. Well, Gohan and Krillin, as Naruto being a former shinobi wasn't as much, but he was angry at seeing innocents being slaughtered. There were 3 people that caught their attention with the biggest power. They all wore the same armor, with the first one being a fat-looking pink guy that had a spiky head. The second person had green skin with a cape on his armor and had dark blue hair. The last person had his entire attention with the amount of power he was pulsing out, while not even trying. He was a short guy with 2 horns on his head and just sitting in his floating pod without a care in the world. Now that we've caught up to them, what do we do now? Krillin voiced the question. There are still some survivors and it would be good to save them, Gohan suggested, with them nodding. But how? The bald man asked with unease. I can distract them while you get them out and get the Dragon Balls in the process, Naruto quickly said his plan as they nodded, albeit reluctantly, since they couldn't think of a different plan. They continued to watch for when an opportunity arrived, when they saw an older-looking Namekian come into view with 2 children hiding behind him. Things had just gotten worse as they saw some Namekian warriors come into view when they fought the rest of the cannon fodder of Frieza's soldiers, leaving just which would make Frieza and his 2 guards being the last 3 left. What no one expected was the Elder to jump into the air and send out ki beams from his fingertips to destroy the remaining scouters, except for the one on the blue-haired one's face that he figured out was how they were able to find the Dragon Balls. Okay, this will make it easier to sneak in with them being only 3 people and the loss of their scouters. They'll have no way to track us either. Naruto was impressed with the courage of the Elder. But what about the Namekians? Gohan asked, wanting to help them. We'll get them out of there, kid. We just gotta wait for the right time to move. Just hold on for a bit longer. The Saiyan shinobi answered as he watched the 3 Namekian warriors get taken care of by the pink guy who set his sights back on the Elder. I'll go in and get their attention, you 2 wait for the opportunity to take the balls. He ordered as he got up from his spot and disappeared from their view. The pink guy was about to go for the finishing blow, when Naruto appeared in front of him, catching his fist with ease. Why don't you try me on for size pinky? He asked with a smirk. And who the hell are you? He asked with glare at being called Pinky. Wow, you look even fatter up close. Not a fan of diets, I take it? He asked, further angering him. Frieza laughed at the insult. Well, well, what do we have here? Another protector of this Elder? Frieza asked with clear sarcasm in his voice. Lord Frieza, that man is a Saiyan. He has a tail like they all did. The blue-haired guard said, surprising the Emperor. When he looked at his waist and did indeed see a tail there around his waist. And here I thought you all were dead except for Vegeta and the other 3. Are you here for revenge for your monkey brethren? He asked with a cruel smile, hoping that Naruto would get angered and challenge him. Nah, but first let me deal with this tub of lard. Just give me a minute. Naruto said, pulling his arm towards him when he brought his arm up and went down with his elbow. Crunch. Ah! Dodoria screamed as he held his crushed arm, but wasn't given a chance to react, when Naruto grabbed the arm again, held his other hand out and incinerated the man, leaving nothing but the arm that he had grabbed. Now you're next, pretty boy. Naruto said, throwing the severed arm at their feet as he turned towards Frieza and Zarbon, with the latter being insulted by the comment and the former laughing at the jab at his subordinate. Pretty boy? Zarbon asked, a little upset about being called that. Oh ho ho ho. This man is quite the comedian. Frieza laughed at the jab. So, how many fangirls do you have, pretty boy? He asked mockingly, with Frieza laughing even harder at him. What? He sputtered at the question and glared at him. Oh, don't look at me like that. It was a question since you seem to be the type to have them. He said, shrugging his shoulders. Doesn't matter if I do or not. It's none of your concern. He dismissed it, still glaring at him. I think I touched a nerve there, ain't that right, pretty boy? Or am I to you swing the other way? He asked, against making him sputter with a small blush, making him nearly lose it and start laughing, but kept it under control. Oh God, I knew it. Naruto laughed out loud, enjoying messing with this guy. Stop laughing, you imbecile. Zarbon yelled in anger as it started getting the better of him. He shrugged his shoulders, not caring that he was yelling at him. You're not scaring me, pretty boy, he said without a care. Enough. He dashed at him, with Naruto following suit. Zarbon threw several punches at him, but he was dodging them with a bored expression on his face. Seeing them angered him that much more when he started kicking him, but again they were being avoided. Naruto decided to end this when he pushed him back and brought his leg up and kicked him in the chin, sending him up. But that wasn't all, as he wasn't prepared for Naruto to be in front of him as he brought an elbow down on his head, crashing down to the ground. Is that all? He asked, boredly. Frieza was impressed with his skill, but knew there wasn't anything to worry about. The rubble exploding showed a slightly injured Zarbon, with some scuffs, bruises, but was mostly fine. He wasn't looking happy though at the moment. You! How dare you! He shouted as he was about to rush back in angrily. Zarbon! Frieza said, snapping him out of his anger, looking at him questioningly. You're letting him get in your head. You need to transform, he said, without a second thought. What? I don't need to use that grotesque form against this monkey. He tried to argue, but was shut up with a glare. It wasn't a suggestion, but an order. He told his subordinate, making him flinch, but did as told as he went through said transformation. In an instant muscles bulged and his face became more monstrous. Wow, you're one of the ugliest motherers I've ever seen, and let me tell you, I've seen quite a few. He said with a grin. You're dead bastard, he screamed out as he disappeared from view, surprising Gohan and Krillin having not seen him move, but Naruto wasn't impressed with his speed. He reappeared behind him with his fist back, but all he hit was empty air. He saw Naruto not far away. He charged again with a mixture of punches and kicks, but it was no use as Naruto continued to dodge him with ease, further annoying the man until he felt something hit him in the jaw, pushing him back when he saw Naruto with his fist extended. You know that's not bad power you're putting out there, but let me show you something more. He yelled out the last part as he started raising it. Ha! He yelled out as the ground started shaking from the pressure, with his entire body being encased in a blue-silver aura. What? No! Zarbon yelled out as his scouter gave him a reading before it blew up on his face. No number, no. No monkey can be this strong. Zarbon roared in anger, denial finding it to be impossible. What was the reading it gave Zarbon? Frieza asked, more curious than anything. 80,000, my lord, he shouted in anger when turned back to Naruto, but a fist was encased in his stomach which caused him to spit out some blood as his eyes bulged out from the punch. And this is only a fraction of what I'm capable of, he whispered in his ear as he continued his attack, kicking him in the back, before disappearing and reappearing in front of him as he elbowed in the face. This continued for a couple of minutes as everyone watched Zarbon get tossed around like a pinball until Naruto used a heel kick, knocking him to the ground that created a giant crater. Naruto nodded at his work when he noticed that Gohan and Krillin had gotten the Namekians to safety, but also had taken the Dragon Balls. Well, I think I've made my point and I've done what I needed to do, so I'll be seeing you two later, he said with a grin as he flew off, with Frieza not knowing what happened. What the hell just happened? He questioned himself until he looked around and noticed that the Namekians, but also his 4 Dragon Balls he had taken from them. That little monkey, he shouted as his power flared angrily at being outwitted by a mere monkey. Oh, he would make the bastard pay for making him, Lord Frieza, look stupid. Naruto was away snickering to himself at how pissed off Frieza was, but he could feel the power that he was giving off. What do you think, Matabi? Think we could take him if we went full power? He asked her. I'm not sure actually, it'll be a close call to make, but I wouldn't want to test our luck with him yet unless we have no choice. She answered with a frown at their uncertainty. Understood. Thanks, sis, he said with a grin as their connection ended. Now let's see. They should be back at the cave now, so let's go see how they're all doing, he said to himself with a nod as he picked up the pace. He got back to the cave and saw the capsule house that Bulma had set up for them for the being. Are you guys here? He asked out loud, when Gohan came out with a sigh of relief. Oh good, it's you, Mr. Naruto. We were wondering if something had happened when you didn't immediately follow us, he said. Thanks kid, and I'm alright, but I can't say the same for the other two, however, seeing how they're pissed off beyond anything after we just did. He laughed as they walked back inside to see Caulifla, Kale, Krillin, and Bulma talking to the 3 Namekians they saved. Oh good. Are you 3 alright? Do we need to check for injuries on any of you? Also, you guys seem to be in a good mood, he asked, getting their attention. No, and thank you for saving our lives. My name is Mori and these 2 little ones are Den and Cargo. He greeted, bowing at him with the other 2 doing the same. Naruto waved them off with a smile. I'm glad I could help and I got a laugh out of humiliating the pretty boy there too. It was a win-win for me. He laughed thinking about annoying Zarbon like he did. Pretty boy? Kale asked, raising her eyebrow. Zarbon, was all he said. Caulifla was laughing knowing how true it was and loved how he seemed to get under his skin. That's great. I wish I could have been there to see that. She laughed holding her side wishing she could have been there. Kale was giggling, but had a thought come to her mind. And the reason we're happy is because I was able to get in contact with Roshi who said that Goku was healed and was on his way here. He said that he'll be here in 5 days. Gohan said excitedly, looking forward to seeing his dad again. What happened to Dodoria? Kale asked, which got Caulifla to stop laughing as she also wondered the same thing. Oh, he won't be much of a problem anymore, since there isn't much left of him. He answered with a feral grin which made Caulifla grin liking this side of him. It made him that much more desirable to her. Oh, and what did you do to him, my man? She grinned seductively. Blew him to ash and threw the arm at Frieza's pod. He said as she laughed harder imagining that. Oh god, that's great, she yelled, enjoying her boyfriend doing this to them. She quickly grabbed his shirt and pulled him into the bedroom, getting curious looks from Gohan while Krillin was paling knowing what was happening. What are they doing? Gohan asked, confused at what was going on. Don't worry about it. We'll tell you about it never. He quickly dismissed it, not wanting to deal with an angry Chi-Chi when they returned to Earth. His jaw dropped when he saw Bulma and Kale following them into the bedroom. When he saw the door close, it glowed blue for a second before it ended. Elder, what just happened? Dend asked, confused like Gohan was. I have absolutely no idea, he said, but looked at Krillin and Gohan wanting to discuss things with them since their friends were occupied. Scene. Eager, aren't we? Naruto smirked as Caulifla pushed him on the bed. Sorry, but hearing how you destroyed Dodoria and humiliated Zarbon, it got me in the mood. Caulifla purred, you ally. Then by all mean. Naruto grinned, taking off his shirt showing his muscular chest. Let's get frisky. I plan on it. Caulifla hurriedly took off all her clothes showing off her toned body. Oh good, you're about to get started. We didn't come too late. Bulma said as she and Kale walked in the room and got undressed. You too, huh Kale? Naruto asked. I can't hold myself back anymore. Kale said before she saw the room flash blue for a moment. Why did the room flash? Whenever it does that, the room becomes soundproof, meaning no sound from in here will be heard outside. Naruto grinned. Thank God for seals. Bulma laughed. Alright, let's see what's under the hood. Caulifla said eagerly, getting on her knees and pulled down his pants, freeing his, and she and Kale were surprised of what Naruto was packing. Oh my. Kale gasped, blushing heavily. How are you so big? Caulifla exclaimed in shock. I'm just naturally gifted. Naruto shrugged with a smirk. And trust me girls, it feels divine when it's inside you. Bulma smirked as well. Then I better prep you up then. Caulifla said, putting her mouth on Naruto's, slathering it up and getting it wet for the fun she was going to have as her man kicked his pants away. After a few minutes she was ready for action as Caulifla climbed upon the seated Naruto and planted her feet on either side of his S, putting her in a squat above Naruto's prick. Grasping the big member, she placed it at the entrance to her soaked cunt and proceeded to pop the head into her pink folds. Alright Naruto, get ready cause I'm going to drain those big balls dry. She promised, wide eyes full of lust. Slowly, Caulifla lowered herself down, so as not to hurt herself. As she reached the half mark, Caulifla stopped her descent and lifted herself up till just the head remained in her tight, then she descended down again, this time cramming the rest up her stretched cunt. As her pleasure-filled pants and moans filled the room, Caulifla raised herself up again till just the head remained. Staring into Naruto's eyes, she gave him seductive smirk as she held her position, getting impatient as she just held the head of his in her, Naruto grasped Caulifla's S and pulled her down. Throwing her head back, mouth falling open in a silent scream, as all of Naruto was driven into her. She experienced a MIV orgasm as her juices squirted out, coating Naruto's pelvis in her feminine juices. As she recovered, Caulifla saw Naruto grinning at her smugly. Deciding she was going to wipe that grin of his face, Caulifla started ing her S up and down his prick. Behind her, Bulma and Kale saw her CL pair of alien cheeks bouncing hypnotically up and down, clapping against Naruto's thighs. Wow. The way it goes in and out is hypnotizing. And hearing how she enjoys it. Kale muttered, blushing as she watched the two couple. That doesn't even compare to how good it feels. I can hear you, Kale. Bulma said, licking her lips. Kale said nothing but bit her lower lip in desire in anticipation for her turn. Groaning in pleasure as Caulifla's tight warm glided over his throbbing erection, Naruto's gaze was drawn to her bouncing mid-D jugs. Not being able to resist, Naruto's head shot forward and captured one of Caulifla's S in his mouth and started to suck hungrily upon it. Smiling internally at the gasp Caulifla let out, Naruto bit lightly upon the captured and pulled his head back, stretching out her tit. Naruto let go of the, allowing it resume its bouncing. Reaching up with his left hand, he grasped her other tit and leaned his head forward again and started to lick the nub before taking it into his mouth and sucking it. Grinning around his captured prize, he started to thrust his up just as Caulifla brought her S down. Being caught off guard, she wrapped her arms around his neck. Oh, screw that fat up my cunt. Me harder, deeper. Oh shit, so good. Naruto had taken over, thrusting upwards into Caulifla as she stopped due to her climax, robbing her of basic motor functions. She just couldn't get enough of getting ed by him. The deep, hard thrusts and the stretching of her cunt filled her with such ecstasy. Caulifla was broken out of her thoughts as Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist and stood up, forcing her to quickly wrap her legs around him. Naruto set Caulifla down upon her bed and settled her so she was lying down on it. Grabbing her legs behind the knees, Naruto forced her legs up till her knees were settled alongside her tits. Caulifla could only stare wide-eyed as he took up, jackhammering his prick into her as he grinned down at her, greatly enjoying himself as he watched her tits go ballistic, jiggling erotically on her chest. Naruto switched to long hard thrusts to see how much he could make them bounce. For the next hour Naruto ed her like this as Caulifla was in mind-numbing orgasms, ones that just seemed to never end. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of getting ed senseless, Caulifla felt Naruto's expand before he buried himself fully in her once again. Grunting, Naruto started to pump huge amounts of jizz directly into Caulifla's womb, causing her stomach to swell up a little from the sudden overstuffing. Jerking his S in short thrusts, Naruto ed his load into Caulifla's swollen belly, forcing some of his cum out of her cunt, the excess sperm splattering down onto her face and tits, covering her in the thick cream. After pumping the last of his load into the stuffed woman, Naruto withdrew his and allowed Caulifla's lower body to fall back to the bed. Looking down, he was surprised to see Caulifla had actually ped out with her eyes rolled back and a huge smile on her cum-covered face. Well, that's one down. Who's next? Naruto asked, turning to Bulma and Kale. She is. I want her to experience that weapon you call a. Bulma grinned, pushing a blushing Kale forward. Well, Kale, Naruto said. Please, Naruto. I want it. Kale said. Then step right up. Kale followed his suggestion and climbed on the bed, getting on her hands and knees as Naruto got behind her. Alright, let's see your handles me. His left hand pressing her down between her shoulders as he rubbed his head between her soaked pink lips. Her only thought at the moment was that she was about to get split in two, and she couldn't wait. Grinning at Kale's nervous yet anticipated expression, Naruto pressed his into her tight folds and with one brutal thrust shoved half himself into her. Kale's eyes nearly popped out of her head as she was stretched beyond what she thought was possible. Naruto pulled back till his head nearly popped out of her before jerking his S forward sharply, going in deep enough to strike Kale's cervix. Oh my god, Naruto, it's so huge. See, can you take it a little easy? Kale whined after enough air returned to her lungs. Oh come on Kale, I'm almost there, and Caulifla never asked me to ease up when I was reshaping her. Naruto punctuated his statement by drawing back a little ways, then thrusting forward to strike the mouth of Kale's cervix again. Oh okay, I can take whatever Caulifla could so ff me. Kale yelled. All right then, but I'm gonna warn ya Kale, once I get through with you you'll probably be a drooling mess. Naruto said heartedly. D don't care, I can take any punishment, J just like Caulifla. Kale promised. Naruto only grinned in response to Kale's statement. Reaching forward he grabbed her by the forearms and then pulled her back while thrusting forward. Kale now found herself stuffed to capacity as Naruto punched through her cervix and battered her womb as he crammed all himself into her little twat. Kale could only scream and squeal as Naruto used his grip on her arms to pull her back into each one of his powerful thrusts, savagely ing her from behind like a bitch in heat. Her beautifully shaped and firm impacting and temporarily deforming into of jiggling flesh against his pelvis with each thrust over and over again. The pleasure and pain mixing into a delicious sensation within Kale's rocking body. Using her arms, Naruto angled Kale upwards to pound into her from a new angle. Bulma, who moved forward to gain a view, had the privilege to see the front of Kale's body at the moment. They'd have the unrestricted view of her DDS bouncing delightfully as she was brutally taken from behind. She'd also see a slight bulge running up Kale's stomach. Kale looks like she's enjoying it. Bulma must. Me, oh yesh me. Kale moaned wantonly, completely out of it as her eyes were rolled all the way up and her mouth was wide open, tongue hanging out and drooling all over herself. Really enjoying it, Bulma thought. The force and speed of Naruto's thrusts picked up speed till his were a blur as he proceeded to reshape Kale's insides. Her inner walls clenched down quite purposefully along different sides of Naruto's prick. Each time he thrusts forward as a new experience as she makes sure to tighten her cunt muscles in new ways, squeezing and gripping along his thick length as it pistons in and out of her. Naruto groans, and Kale smiles dumbly as she hangs her head back, panting heavily from the exertion of what she's doing. His every response to her actions, however small it is enough to get Kale more involved. It's one of the best workouts she's had since being with Naruto, on top of it being mind-melting alien monkey. And as she takes it from behind, it's fair to say that her mind melts more and more. The world fades away, even more than it already had. It's just Kale, Naruto, and his inside of her cunt. He's her to orgasm after orgasm, and Kale signals each and every one with a powerful cry of ecstasy. Finally, after what had to be nearly an hour of pounding the nearly unconscious Kale, Naruto felt a familiar stirring in his balls. Time to unload inside my sweet Kale, he thought happily. Pressing Kale's stupid face back into the bed, Naruto groaned deeply and started to hose down Kale's insides with his load, still driving into her to get the maximum enjoyment out of it. Kale's womb became packed full of cum in a matter of seconds, and not long after her stomach swelled up from all the jizz being pumped into her. As Naruto screwed his load into her, he pulled Kale's face off the bed and pressed it into the floor so he could pound down into the new angle, using gravity to keep even more of his jizz inside Kale's inflating abdomen. After several seconds, Naruto finally finished emptying himself into his limp Kale. Looking down, he admired his handiwork. Kale's left cheek was pressed into his carpet, her face still bearing the same stupid look Caulifla's had as her drool formed a small puddle. She'd occasionally twitch and quiver as her body would experience little mini orgasms, causing her cunt to clench and leak a bit of jizz out and around his still fully buried. All in all, a good day's work. Not that he was done, as he still had one more lover to attend to. Turning to Bulma, Naruto smirked with his eyes full of lust, and Bulma purred "you ally" at the look. She flipped over and stuck her in the air, bracing herself for the pounding she was about to receive. Go ahead and me, Naruto. I can't let my man suffer from blue balls. Thanks, Bulma. You're the best. Lining himself up, Naruto gently popped his head into Bulma's tight twat, earning a little squeak from the woman. Grasping Bulma's s tightly, Naruto began to slowly thrust into her, stuffing an inch in at a time. Naruto was able to drive his whole s, Bulma snuggling it into a tight fit. Naruto started to gently thrust in and out of Bulma, speeding up his thrusts to a moderate pace. Naruto tried to control himself and not just Bulma into a quivering stupid mess like he would with Caulifla and Kale. Resting her forehead on the bed, Bulma moaned as Naruto ed her. She had never felt so full before since the last time they had, and combined with the confident and sure strokes he was giving her were filling her with pleasurable sensations she had never before experienced before she got with him. Suddenly Bulma's head shot up and she started quivering as she started to cum, as her started to convulse around his, making Naruto not able to take it any longer. Reaching underneath her, Naruto firmly grabbed Bulma's DD tits and started to her with faster, more powerful strokes till he was going at the same pace he did with his other two lovers. Bulma's eyes rolled up into her head as she experienced another orgasm before coming down from the previous one. The new intense way Naruto was ing her was nearly too much, but she still was able to handle it. Using his hold on Bulma's tits, Naruto pulled her up against him, the new angle sending Bulma into another orgasm as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck from behind to try and steady herself against Naruto's powerful thrusts. She just sometimes couldn't believe the stamina Naruto possessed. He had already ed Caulifla and Kale multiple, and yet here he was, driving up into her with such speed and strength. Naruto continued to Bulma for a little more than half an hour, forcing her through one orgasm after another before he felt his own drawing near. Wrapping his arms around Bulma just below her now bouncing s, Naruto tried to hold off coming until he ed Bulma into one more mind-blowing orgasm. Come for me, Bulma, I want your squeezing down on my once more. Giving Bulma a particularly hard thrust sent her spiraling into one last orgasm, her clamping tightly on Naruto's. Feeling Bulma cum, Naruto finally let go and buried as much of his into her that he could, and unleashed the load he'd barely been holding back right into her womb. Your feels so good, Bulma. Wish I could have you wrapped around my all the time. Take my cum, take it all deep in your cunt. Naruto cried. Oh yes, Naruto. Cum in my, empty those big balls. So good. Bulma cooed. Bulma's head fell back onto Naruto's shoulder as he pumped what seemed like an endless amount of cum into her. Bulma's belly developed a slight bulge form, the amount of semen being poured into her till she looked 2 months pregnant. Finally, after several seconds, Naruto's orgasm tapered off and he fell back, taking Bulma with him, so he was lying on the bed with her resting on top of him. The two polite lovers laid there panting while Bulma's would jerk spastically every now and then, while Naruto's softening stayed buried in Bulma's, jizz still spilling out of the well-ed woman. End scene. I will never get over how much of a beast you are in bed, love. Bulma smiled tiredly, but oh so satisfied with how he handled them. Damn, if I would have known that with you was going to be like this, I would have done this weeks ago. Caulifla said, clearly loving how rough he was with her, but there was love in his eyes as he went at her. Kale didn't say anything as she was unconscious, but had a wide smile on her face and was mumbling incoherent words that he couldn't understand. Glad I could help. He grinned at his girlfriends, but noticed Bulma was looking a little green and trying to get up. Are you okay, Bulma? He asked, growing concerned about seeing her state. I'm fine. Can you get me to the bathroom though? I don't feel so good. She told him as he complied and took her to the bathroom. You can go back to bed. I'll tell you when I'm done here. She urged him with a smile before she started vomiting, with Naruto growing worried about her since it was rare for her to get sick. I'll go get you some water, okay? He told her, but all she got was some vomit sound coming from her. He created a shadow clone to go do that as he went back to bed and brought his other two girlfriends to cuddle with them. How do you feel, Caulifla? He grinned in satisfaction when she gave him a mock glare. I can't feel my legs whole. she said in what seemed like an annoyed tone, but there was a playful gleam in her eyes. But it was so worth it if I said so myself. He smirked when he s his hand down to her and groped it, getting her to moan at the sensation when he all of a sudden got up, leaving a hot and bothered, making her blink in confusion when she saw the innocent look he was giving her, walking away as she looked at him disbelief. He just walked away after doing that to me? She asked in disbelief in her voice. A few minutes later, he came back in with Khalifa still in bed glaring at him when she saw him walk in. Kale was awake, but looked confused about why Khalifa was glaring at him. Bulma was in bed too, looking a little better, but still looked sick. I brought some food. Figured you might be hungry and I brought some drinks. He said with a small smile, but it didn't help with the glare still on him, but it was now more playful than serious. About time you got back, Whiskers, I'm starving. Khalifa yelled, taking the tray from his hands so they could eat while Naruto went over to Bulma. You okay, babe? It's not like you to get sick like this. He commented with worry clearly in his tone. Bulma smiled at his caring nature. I'm alright, Naruto. It's just a stomach bug. I must have eaten something bad, but I will be alright. That food though looks really good, she said, eyeing the food like a prey. Why don't you three eat while I go talk to the others and find out what's been going on since we disappeared? He said as they nodded, wanting to eat more than anything else. Naruto walked out to find that no one was here except for himself and the girls. He wondered where everyone went when he saw a note on the counter. Hey Naruto, we're letting you know that we've come up with a plan. Gohan noticed a Dragon Ball and went off to find it, so no one else could get their hands on it. Den told us about their leader Guru who we were told could help us, so we decided to go with this as a plan. If you get this, wait for us to come back, hopefully with good news. Also, we sense that Vegeta is on the planet, so we have more people to worry about. Krillin, P.S. I'm so jealous of you, man. You need to help me get a girl when we get back to Earth. He finished reading the letter having multiple thoughts running through his head. Vegeta was here, which wasn't a big problem for him since he could handle him, but their plan was what caught his attention. He would need to talk to Krillin next time he saw him. He went back to the bedroom to tell them about the note and the new information from the note with a frown on his face, which was something the girls noticed. What's wrong, Naruto? Kale asked. Well, apparently in the couple hours we were gone, a few things have happened. Vegeta is on the planet now and he's here for the same thing that Frieza is. Gohan left to go get a Dragon Ball they discovered on its own, and Krillin left with the Namekians to go speak with the Grand Elder, so basically the leaders of the Namekians. He summarized, getting reactions from them. Khalifa and Kale were sweating at the news of Vegeta being here, but were more confident after training with Naruto for the past couple of months. Bulma, however, was freaking out, and it didn't help that she felt like throwing up again, so he helped her to the bathroom. What now? Khalifa asked, wanting to know what their next move would be. You three recover while we wait to hear back from someone, since Gohan and Krillin can contact me telepathically. As soon as I hear about one of them, I'm going after them. He said, getting a nod from Bulma, who had poked her head out. Oh hell no. I'm going too. You're not going to have all the fun. Khalifa yelled with a grin on her face, wanting to fight someone, but before she could take 2 steps she fell to the ground and started grumbling about bastard boyfriend who's too good in bed, which made everyone chuckle at her antics. Take this time to heal us, so we can be prepared for when we know what the plan is, she said. A day later, Naruto was with the girls as they were sleeping when he felt someone's key signature spike up. He recognized it immediately as Gohan's, knowing he was in trouble, so he created a shadow clone and switched places with it, before he got his clothes and flew off towards the kid. It was easy to find Gohan since Vegeta wasn't trying to hide his key signature, and it was higher than before, knowing that he had gotten a Zenkai boost from his defeat on Earth. He could feel Gohan's energy getting lower, which wasn't good, so he went faster until he managed to get there in time to see Vegeta hovering over him. He jumped down with a punch that Vegeta saw coming on the corner of his eye and jumped away to avoid it, leaving Naruto in front of Gohan protectively. Well, 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 look who we have here. The bastard that cut off my tail. Vegeta nearly screamed. Yeah, well, I didn't have many options left. Though, are you still mad about that? It was a long time ago. Naruto waved off nonchalantly. That tail was a part of me and it'll never grow back now. He growled, before taking deep breaths to calm himself. I owe you payback for what you and that two-tailed bitch of a cat did to me, but I'm currently doing something more important right now. He said. That bitch. You can't call me something like that and get away with it. Naruto-kun, let me out now, so I can show this dumb just who he's messing with. Matabi shouted angrily at the prince, wanting to tear him apart with her claws. He ignored her, rambling to focus on Vegeta, before looking at Gohan. Go kid, I got little princess here. He gestured to Vegeta, who was fuming at the insult. Gohan nodded at this, trying not to laugh as he took off with the Dragon Ball he had taken earlier. Wait, that brat has a Dragon Ball. Vegeta was fuming now, seeing that he had it all this time. Now, what are you going to do, Vegeta? You're down a ball and can't beat me. What's your choice? He didn't have to wait long as Vegeta charged at him with a series of punches, but none were connecting with their targets since he was blocking them all with ease. Is that all? He asked boredly, further pissing off the prince. I am the prince of all Saiyans. I will not be mocked like this. He shouted as he continued his ult. He's gotten stronger, alright. Impressive. Naruto thought to himself. Naruto decided to fight back when he started throwing his own punches and kicks, with Vegeta blocking the first one, feeling a wince from it, but dodged the rest to avoid damage. You've gotten stronger, Vegeta, I can say that much. He said with a shrug as they separated from each other. Of course I have. Aside from Frieza, I'm the strongest thing on this planet. He yelled in pride of his strength. Are you sure about that? He charged and was about halfway to him, when he stopped as he and Vegeta looked up, sensing something coming towards the planet. Naruto noticed that the prince was sweating a little, raising an eyebrow, wondering what's got him so worried. I take it you know what's coming by how worried you look? He asked curiously. I know them. That bastard Frieza called in the Ginyu Force along with his second in command, who happens to be much stronger than them. He answered. Now this caught his attention. And who is this person stronger than them? He wondered, wanting to know who is above his elite fighting unit. I wouldn't know. This would be the first time I'd see them, but the Ginyu Force should be our focus for now. He said. So, what does that mean for us now? He asked. Don't make me say it. Vegeta said, not wanting to do what the no-name Saiyan wanted to hear. I have no idea what you're talking about. He said, tilting his head to the side, trying not to outright laugh. I need your help, he admitted with gritted teeth, making him smirk, before he gave a serious expression. We need to hurry and get the others if we're going to fight them. You and I might be able to handle them all, but it'd be better to have extra help. He said, with Vegeta begrudgingly agreeing. Let's go, he said as they flew off at high speeds, heading towards where Vegeta had the other Dragon Balls at. Meanwhile, Naruto was contacting Bulma telepathically. Bulma, are you there? He asked. Naruto, where are you? Gohan arrived here and told us that you were fighting Vegeta, and now they've all sensed a group of people arriving on the planet. What's going on? She demanded. It's a lot to explain, but basically Frieza's elite fighting force is coming and me and Vegeta have agreed to work together against them. We'll need everyone to meet us at this location with the other Dragon Balls before they show up, except for you, since it'll be too dangerous. He said with no room to argue, something that Bulma noticed and was worried since he wasn't like this very often. Alright, I'll let them know. Be careful, sweetheart, and good luck, she said, ending the link to tell the others of the plan. They arrived at where Vegeta kept all the Dragon Balls that he had taken, with the others arriving not long after. So who's on their way? That's got everyone so nervous. Judging by the power level, they're huge. Krillin said, unease clearly in his voice. The Ginyu Force along with Frieza's second in command. Vegeta said, getting the expected reactions from Caulifla and Kale, who were sweating a lot, with Kale slightly shaking, not looking forward to seeing them again. From what Vegeta tells me, no one had met his second in command, so I assume that she, whoever it is, won't show up and let the Ginyu Force handle us. Naruto summed up with a nod at accepting the answer. What now? Gohan asked, wanting to know what the plan was. We hide the balls from them before they get here. Vegeta was cut off at the arrival of 5 figures that was making him, along with everyone except Naruto, look uneasy. They all looked different, but had the same armor signaling that they're from Frieza's army, but had a symbol on their pecs indicating they're part of a special forces of sorts. So, this is the Ginyu Force. What about the other person? Naruto asked, not impressed with what he was seeing. Yes, they are, and they're as strong as I am, and perhaps even stronger than me. Vegeta said seriously. Naruto saw them doing poses for their introduction, yelling out their names, making Naruto start to pale, having a flashback at a familiar-looking green beast who would do something similar, shouting about youth. He instantly started shooting ki blasts at them, stopping their introduction. They glared at Naruto, who glared back at them, while hearing him mumble about not again, this universe doesn't need more springtime of youth, making his girlfriends and friends sweat drop, not knowing what he was talking about. What the hell, Naruto? Caulifla wondered, seeing her boyfriend act like this. Oi, what the hell do you think you're doing interrupting our introduction, monkey? The red-skinned one asked. Just introduce yourselves normally, he said flatly, not wanting to deal with that again, shivering from the memory of having met Might Guy on occasion. Ginyu, G-Ice, Berter, Goldo, Raccoon. And we are the Ginyu Force, they said in unison with their group pose. Well, this is going to be annoying. Naruto sighed as he was regretting this already. The two groups stared across from each other, with Vegeta, Kale and Caulifla being the most tense, knowing how powerful the Ginyu Force is when they saw them. Hello, Vegeta, it seems you've decided to betray Lord Frieza after all this time along with the others. Even tried to steal the Dragon Balls from him. G-Ice cut in knowingly with a smirk, seeing the man grit his teeth. Goldo, if you could please. Ginyu said to the green alien, who nodded with a smirk when he used his powers to take all of them, surprising everyone as Naruto narrowed his eyes at what just happened. God Captain, he said smugly, seeing the surprise on all of them. How'd that happen? Krillin asked, not knowing what had happened. Now that we have all the Dragon Balls, I'll be taking these to Lord Frieza now. I'll leave the rest to you and have fun. Ginyu said as he started levitating, but Naruto flew in front of him to stop him. You're not going anywhere without getting by me first. Naruto stated seriously, having no intention of letting them get away with taking the Dragon Balls. Naruto, we're going to need your help with the rest of the Ginyu Force since they're tough bastards. Caulifla called out, making him look at her with a raised eyebrow, before he looked over at Ginyu, who now held a smirk on his face. What are you going to do now, monkey? Try to stop me or help your friends with my squad? He asked with the same expression on his face, making him growl before he descended back down to the others, leaving Ginyu to fly off. What now? He questioned Vegeta, wanting to know what they are capable of, when he saw something odd. What the hell are they doing? He asked flatly. I think they're playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who fights who. Gohan said with a nervous chuckle, seeing this strange group playing a game like that. We don't have time for this. We should just take them out now. Naruto said, but felt two hands grab his wrists. Turning around, he saw Caulifla and Kale shaking their heads at him. That wouldn't be smart to do. You don't know what they can do, so for now we should play their game and take them out one at a time. Caulifla said, for once serious instead of wanting to fight. Ha, I got Vegeta. Raccoon pumped his fist in the air with a grin on his face. And I got the two Saiyan women. G.I. said as he smirked at them with Berter smirking at Naruto who narrowed his eyes at him. And I get to fight the two brats. Goldo pouted, wanting to fight one of the Saiyans. I'm an adult. Krillin shouted. At least you're taller than little fatty there. He looks like he should be on a diet. He smirked seeing him fume at him. Vegeta was trying not to laugh outright since he often teased him as well. I should kill you after I deal with the brats. Goldo grumbled trying to rein in his anger. Who gets the other monkey? G.I.S. asked, wanting to know since he'll be left. I'll take him after you guys fight. Judging by their power levels it won't take long. Berter told him who nodded. Any suggestions for them Vegeta? Naruto asked his fellow Saiyan. Keep your guard up at all times, he can use telekinesis along with his ability to stop time. He told them who nodded. Gohan and Krillin went full power immediately, not wanting to take any chances, surprising everyone except for Naruto who was aware of Gohan's potential and since he trained him too. He should be able to hold his own along with Krillin. They were doing well, keeping him on his toes and not giving him a chance to do much, forcing him to hide and try to catch his breath. Gohan brought his hands up to his forehead putting his hands together, gathering ki for an attack. Krillin was doing the same as he cupped his hands in the familiar technique Goku used. Masenko ha! Gohan shouted. Kamehameha! Krillin shouted. They sent out their attacks further making Goldo jump away as he was getting tired and wouldn't be able to use his time stop technique. What the hell are these two made of? He asked himself, when he saw them approaching him at fast speeds, but had a smirk on his face with a plan coming to his mind. As soon as they got close enough, Goldo put his hands up in a weird pose before he shouted as a large amount of pressure altered them, stopping them in place leaving them wide open for anything to do. Now you're at my mercy. There's nothing you can do to get out of this. As long as you're stuck like this, you'll never be able to get out. He smugly said with Naruto looking at Vegeta who nodded. As Goldo pulled out a tree and had it sharpened ready to pierce them, when all of a sudden, his head rolled off his shoulders, falling on the ground. How could you? This was supposed to be between me and them. He asked, feeling cheated out of his win. And I will never let my friends die if I can help it, so like hell I'll sit back and do nothing. See ya fatty. He blasted the head, destroying it completely leaving nothing left. Thanks for the save Naruto. I was thinking I was going to die again there. Krillin sighed, feeling better now. Now who's next? He asked, itching to fight one of them when Vegeta stepped forward with Raccoon doing the same. That answers that question, Caulifla said. Why don't we speed things up? G.I.S. asked as they stepped up with the two Saiyan women looked unsure, but a smile from their boyfriend gave them confidence as they followed suit. The fight between Vegeta and Raccoon goes as canon. So it's us two now Shall we self-proclaimed fastest man alive? He asked sarcastically as they disappeared with Berter looking at Naruto, wanting to get him with his speed. As he got closer, he saw Naruto look at him with a smirk, surprising him. He can see me. He was surprised since he was the fastest man alive. Not so fast are you. Trust me, you're not as fast as you think you are. You're too big to be stealthy with how tall you are. He said. Shut up. I am the fastest man alive and I'll prove it. Berter roared, increasing his speed, but Naruto was matching him pace for pace with the same smirk on his face the whole time. Naruto disappeared from view, making him look around to find him, but was too late as he felt something dig into his flesh on his side in horror seeing a blue chakra arm that caused him to spit out blood. What? How? He asked in horror, seeing his blood, having not seen him move at all. It's simple. You're too slow. He said each word with a grin, much to his horror. Naruto created another chakra arm that created a small Biju bomb and slammed it into his back, causing an explosion as Naruto jumped back to avoid the attack. When the dust settled, there was a small crater, with bits and pieces of Berter there, but overall nothing was left of him. Berter! G-Ice shouted as he and Raccoon saw what had happened to their teammate with nothing left of him. And then there were two. He smirked when he saw them shout in anger and rush in blind anger as they threw several punches and kicks hoping to hit him, but he was dodging them. Oh come on. I know my grandma's faster than you and she's in her 50s. He mocked. Ah. G-Ice roared in anger, jumping back and shooting ki blasts at him at fast speeds. Naruto didn't do anything as they got closer and caused an explosion to occur. Did that work? Raccoon asked, with hope in his voice. I think so, the red-skinned guy said, but he paled when the dust settled to see no injuries on the Saiyan who was looking at them with a bored expression. Geez. That was pathetic and weak. Let me show you a real attack. Naruto said as his hands lit up with his ki, which caused a slight burning sensation until two orbs formed in his hands that turned into fireballs. Fire windmill. He shouted as the fireballs he had brought them over his head and threw them at the remaining two members. They weren't able to react fast enough as they collided with them, causing an explosion. Raccoon came out of the smoke looking worse for wear, being littered with injuries, and could see several burn marks from his attack. He was slower though, with his injuries slowing him down. He sent a sloppy punch that Naruto caught before he brought his knee up to his chest, making him gasp in pain before he was sent to the ground as he kicked him in the back of the head with a roundhouse kick. Raccoon was barely conscious and was in tremendous pain when Naruto approached him with his ki blade activated. Any last words, Mr. Elite? He asked, sarcastically. You won't live against Captain and Lord Frieza. He groaned, trying to sit up, but didn't get a chance as Naruto swung his blade down and cut his head off, leaving just G-Ice left, who managed to see his third teammate die by one man. What are you going to do now, Red? He asked, bringing his ki blade up threateningly. Captain, he wailed, shouted as he flew off to find his leader. He sighed as his ki blade disappeared and looked to see how everyone was doing. Vegeta looked beat and battered. Gohan and Krillin were nearly unconscious, but had several injuries. He was more worried seeing Kale and Caulifla. They were unconscious and were bleeding with several cuts on their bodies and had bruises on them too. He created 3 ki clones to heal Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta to heal them as much as he could. He was personally going to heal his girlfriends as he saw their battered forms, making him worry about their well-beings. How do you create clones? Vegeta asked, finding the technique interesting. I might tell you about it some other time, but for now let him do his job and heal you a bit. He told the prince when he looked up and saw AS landing. Goku. Krillin said weakly. Daddy. Gohan muttered happily, wincing in pain. Kakarot. Vegeta growled, recognizing the ki energy. Oh girls. I'm sorry I couldn't keep you safe. He whispered to them even if they were unconscious. I know you can take care of yourselves, but I want you both to rest and to be safe. He said to them as he continued healing them. They'll be okay, Naruto-kun. You did what you could and you made that G-Ice and Raccoon guy pay for what they did to them and the others. Matabi said, trying to put his mind at ease. I know, but I should have ended it quicker, so I could be here sooner. I let my Saiyan instincts take control to fight them and to see what they could do, when I should have ended it quickly, like a shinobi would have. He reprimanded himself. It's true you should have ended it sooner, but that doesn't matter anymore. They're safe and you'll be there for them. You need to remember also that you're more than a Saiyan, that you're a shinobi as well. Use what you have and what you've learned. You haven't used your swords in a long time or any other arts except for ninjutsu. She lectured, making him sigh and nod. I understand, sis. And thank you. He smiled, which she returned even if he wasn't in his mindscape to see it. Naruto had just finished healing what he could and the girls along with everyone were looking much better, but the girls were still out. Naruto looked to see Goku land near them and waved him over happily to see his friend since they'll need the extra help right now. Daddy, Gohan said in happiness. Goku, Krillin said in glee. Kakarot, Vegeta growled, not liking how he's here when he's got to deal with Naruto already. I forgot he has two names. It's good to see you, my friend, and you made it just in time. He said. Glad I was able to make it on time too. You guys looked like you got roughed up a bit, but I got some senzu beans that'll help. Goku said, pulling out a small brown bag that held them in. He pulled 5 out and gave 2 to Naruto, so he could give it to Caulifla and Kale. Because they were unconscious, he had to give it a different way, so they wouldn't choke on them. He put each in his mouth one at a time, chewing it before he kissed each of them to pee it to them. It worked wonders because their eyes fluttered open and had smiles in Kale's case and grin in Caulifla's. Well, that's one way to wake someone up, handsome. She said cheekily. Thank you, Naruto. Kale said shyly with a blush on her face. How are you two feeling? He asked them. They both frowned before they left his eyes, not able to look at him. We didn't beat him, even after all our training we had done with you, it was still useless. I was sure we could take him, but he ended up toying with us before he knocked us out. And you beat him and the others like it was nothing. Caulifla said, downcasted at her defeat and her weakness. Naruto could feel for them, having known what that was like when he was a shinobi. He may have been a prodigy, but he was still weak compared to others. It's fine, babe. You did really well against him and I couldn't be more proud of you too. He smiled at his girlfriends, which got a grin from them. Look at you being sweet and all to us like this. Thanks, handsome. Caulifla said with a real smile and not a usual grin she'd give. Kale was smiling at Naruto for his encouraging words. She really was lucky to have him in her life and to have met him. Goku, how many senzu beans do you have left after giving them each one? Naruto asked. I have one more. Why do you ask? The orange-clad Saiyan asked. Just wanting to see what we have left, seeing how it's just down to 3 people left to deal with and we'll need it. Naruto said, referring to Frieza and his second in command. Right. You should hold on to the bag. I almost lost the bag once or twice on my way here and I know you wouldn't lose it. Goku said, sheepishly rubbing his head when he saw the deadpanning looks from them and a chuckle escaping Naruto's mouth, expecting that. Sure. I can even put them in a seal on my arm to keep them safe. Give me a minute, he told them as he quickly brought some ink out, confusing Vegeta on what he's doing, having no idea what he's doing. He finished writing the storage seal, before he pressed his fingers into it and went through a single hand sign, creating a puff of smoke. When the smoke died down, the bag of senzu beans were gone and the seal that he wrote was glowing blue, further confusing the prince. Okay, what the hell was that? Is someone going to explain to me what's going on here? Vegeta yelled out in frustration at not knowing what's going on. It's a skill I learned called Fuinjutsu. What you saw was something called a storage seal that allows me to store things in them no matter how big it is. It can be a person or energy itself. It's something that takes years to master. It wouldn't suit your style anyway. He shrugged at him, nodding, knowing how true that is. What are we going to do now? G-Ice is sure to come back with Ginyu and perhaps even Frieza's second in command. If that's the case, then we should prepare for them, since whoever he is won't be easy to beat. The prince said, getting nods from everyone, understanding how serious it could be. Let me handle him then. I wonder who it is though, if no one except Frieza knows who the second in command is. It makes you wonder though, don't you think? He questioned, making everyone else wonder, but none more than Vegeta, since he's been wanting to find out for years. We wait for them to come back and see what they do. It would be better that way, so we can plan better on what to do. Gohan suggested, with everyone agreeing, even Vegeta, who was begrudgingly going along with it as he was having thoughts. How How did he get so strong where this unknown Saiyan can even destroy the Ginyu Force where I, Prince Vegeta, failed? Impossible. I refuse to believe it. And Kakarot I can feel is hiding some absurd power as well when he was nowhere near this level when we fought on Earth. It shouldn't be possible. They can't possibly be the legendary Super Saiyans. He screamed in his mind, outraged at what he had seen and could sense from them. It was at that moment that they all felt a huge amount of power coming from the east, making them all slightly nervous except for Naruto, who narrowed his eyes in the direction. What the hell was that? Krillin asked, shaking at what he felt. I think it's safe to say that it was Frieza throwing a hissy fit. I think I know what it was. Naruto grinned, seeing his girls, and even Vegeta laughed at the insult. What was it then? Goku asked, confused. Think about it. Ginyu flew off in the same direction where the power surge came from, and he had all the Dragon Balls, right? He asked. Nodding, he continued. Then that must mean that he can't get them to work. Dumb thought he could just use them with ease, thinking that the Namekians wouldn't have some way to protect them from being used by people like him if they ever were collected. He laughed, as did the others laugh, realizing what he was getting at. I gotta admit, you aren't so bad if you can insult Frieza like this. You really are a Saiyan at heart. Vegeta commented with a nod, respecting Naruto a little more. I'm going to go check on Bulma and make sure she's alright. Caulifla, Kale, stay here and help them when they arrive. Naruto said as they looked at one another for a bit, before looking back at him, nodding as he nodded back before flying off towards the cave that they were hiding at. Earlier with Frieza, Ginyu had returned with the Dragon Balls, and Frieza was really excited about getting his wish granted finally. When he tried to use them, he had no idea that they required a P-word to use, which upsetted the tyrant since he needed a Namekian alive to get the information he wanted. What do I do now? I killed them all. There's no one left to tell. I've lost my wish. Frieza roared in anger, unconsciously releasing his power. There may be a few surviving Namekians out there. Let's check with our scouters and check for any that are still alive. Frieza's second-in-command suggested, sounding feminine despite wearing a cloak. They did as instructed, and it didn't take long to find signatures. Well, look at that. 3 in that direction. Good work. Frieza praised as he got in his pod and took off toward the remaining Namekians. What do we do now while we wait for Lord Frieza to come back with the P-word? She asked Ginyu. I'll just work on different poses to improve for my squad, he said. She nodded as he began thinking of different poses that they could work on. As they were waiting, they heard the sound of someone approaching them and looked to see not Frieza, but G-Ice, who was moving at his fastest and seemed to be upset about something. Captain. G-Ice landed and ran up to Ginyu and started explaining, or well, trying, but neither could understand what he was saying with how he was rambling and panicking the whole time. After having enough of his useless ramblings, she walked up to him and slapped him across the face, which got him to shut up as he looked at her with a glare. Now, get it together and explain it again. We could hardly understand what you were saying, and nothing we said could get you to realize that, she said with a shrug, not caring that she had slapped him. G-Ice went on to explain how they were fighting the group and had beaten everyone except for Naruto, who Berter had started fighting, but it didn't take long for him to kill Berter. He along with Raccoon decided to fight him together, but it made little difference as he picked them apart until he killed Raccoon, leaving G-Ice to leave to where he was now. This surprised the two, but Ginyu quickly got angry that nearly his whole squad was killed off by one person who was a Saiyan of all things. The second-in-command was more curious than upset, since there weren't many people who could fight the Ginyu force and kill them for that matter. She never really liked them anyhow with their ridiculous poses and dances they did. I'm going to kill that monkey as no one messes with the Ginyu force. Ginyu yelled in complete anger and was about to fly off, but he was grabbed on the shoulder, stopping him. He turned around to see it was her that was stopping him. Why don't you let me fight him? We don't know how strong he is, and if he was able to defeat your team so easily, then I'd say he could be around your level at the least, and if we're to get revenge for your teammates, we need someone who will have a higher power level than you, and it would be a waste for Lord Frieza to deal with him, leaving him to me. Besides, there's also Prince Vegeta, the other Saiyans, and the Earthlings that are still there, right? You guys should handle them. She explained, getting a growl at having his revenge taken, but he thought about it and was probably the best thing to do. Fine, but you better kill him, otherwise he could be a problem if he's as strong as he's been made out to be. Ginyu said, before he looked at G-Ice. What was his power level when you fought him? He wanted to know. It was 90,000 and he wasn't even trying still at that point. G-Ice answered with Ginyu narrowing his eyes before he looked at her. Alright, he's yours to handle, he said, accepting her proposal as they took off to go to Goku and the others, leaving her to find Naruto. Hopefully you're strong, as I've been itching to fight someone for a long time since not many can push me to my limits. She laughed and was looking forward to fighting him. Let's see where you're at, she said, using her scouter to find him. It didn't take long to do that, as he had a very high power level that was even higher than she was told, making her that much more excited. Oh, this'll be the fight I've been waiting for. She smirked before flying off at incredible speeds. Naruto was flying towards Bulma, wanting to give her an update as he told her that he was on his way to check on her. Yes, he could have talked to her telepathically, but he also wanted to see her. He was moving at a decent pace, when he stopped all of a sudden, sensing someone heading towards him, so he decided to wait for whoever it was to show up. It didn't take long for whoever it was to show up, and when that person did, he was shocked at what he was seeing. It was a woman of below average height. She had shaggy black hair that went to her shoulders, onyx eyes, and was wearing the traditional Frieza armor. She was beautiful, but what really got his attention was what was around her waist. A tail. A Saiyan. I never expected to see any more, but apparently Frieza sucks at genocide if there are this many surviving Saiyans. He commented. You won't speak of Lord Frieza with such disrespect. He's the strongest in the universe and will get his wish for immortality, she said with conviction. So you're working with that bitch, huh? How could you willingly work for someone that destroyed the Saiyans by destroying planet Vegeta? He growled in disgust. I don't have to answer your questions, but I will admit you have an impressive amount of power on you and I would like to test it for myself. She smirked. Before we get started, why don't we introduce ourselves? He asked, when he saw her narrow her eyes in question. And before you say anything, no, it's nothing like those idiot Ginyu Force members. That shit was stupid, he answered as she nodded. Thank God. I hate their poses, she said, before clearing her throat. Well, I'm Jin, second in command of the Frieza Force. She introduced herself. Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki and former shinobi. He followed suit. She raised an eyebrow at the terms. Jinchuriki and shinobi. That's unusual for a Saiyan, having never heard of those before. Both charged at each other, clashing their fists together, which created a mini shockwave, trying to outdo the other in raw power. Naruto was able to push her back before he punched her in the stomach, but she blocked it with her knee, sending her own punch to his chest, but he caught her fist. They continued trading blows, trying to outdo the other, but they were even. They were locked in a grip lock as they tried to push the other back, but neither were moving, proving to be a challenge for each other. Naruto brought his knee up hoping to hit her chin, but she let go, avoiding the hit as she started throwing ki blasts at him. He saw this and matched her with his own ki blasts. They both were taking damage as the ki blasts continued being sent out at great speeds, pushing them further until Naruto roared, destroying the incoming ki blasts. When the smoke settled, both could be seen having some injuries and were panting a little from the damage done, but both were looking alright mostly. Both had huge grins on their faces, though showing that they were enjoying the fight. Now this is what I've been missing. I think it's time though that we kick up a notch, don't you think? She asked, her grin to widen, making him do the same, just as excited as she was. I do believe so. Let's see what you got, he said as he started raising his power along with Jine. Ah! They shouted as the ground started shaking, cracks were beginning to form under them. Their auras were flaring to life, with Naruto's being his typical blue, silver, and Jine's was blue but darker in color. Her scouter was going off and she was in awe at the amount of power that she was feeling and the readings she was getting. His power had reached 200,000 and it was still going. She could think about it anymore. Her scouter broke, making her flinch slightly from the explosion. They flared their auras one last time, causing a bright light to be seen from miles away. When the light died down, you could easily feel the power rolling off of them in waves that would make Vegeta seethe in jealousy. Jine had her dark blue aura that was flowing off her, and Naruto was covered in his blue-silver aura. What do you think? This is my full power, Jine declared loudly in pride at how far she'd come in working under her boss. I have to say I'm impressed, but let's see how you put it to use. Naruto finished, vanishing from his spot. She dodged as a kick to the head appeared. Jine responded by kicking him in the chin that connected, sending him in the air. Wanting to capitalize on it, she flew off at him, elbowing him in the back of the head, which sent him crashing into the ground. He shook off the blow as he decided to take her more seriously. He activated his Rinne Sharingan, surprising her with his eyes changing like that, having never seen anything like it before, similar to how Caulifla and Kale reacted the first time. What's up with your eyes? What did you do, I wonder? No matter, they won't help against me, she declared, vanishing from her spot as she seemed to have disappeared, but due to Naruto's eyes he was able to keep track of her. She tried punching him in the face, but he surprisingly blocked with his forearm, making her eyes go wide. She tried again with a kick to his side, but he again caught her leg with his arm. He spun her around before he threw her into a mountain and blasted her with a ki blast that created an explosion. She flew out of the smoke, with Naruto meeting her halfway as they continued attacking each other, exchanging different blows with kicks and punches, but Naruto had a slight advantage due to his Rinne Sharingan helping tracking her movements, something she noticed and was starting to piss her off. Okay. What the hell are those eyes? They clearly are making it easier for you to see me. What are they? She demanded rather angrily. Not seeing harm in telling her, he shrugged his shoulders. They're called the Rinne Sharingan and, like you mentioned, can help me track your movements and even predict where you're going. I don't rely on them though. Only use them as a last resort, he explained when he did two hand signs. Water style. Water dragon's jutsu, he declared as from the lake nearby, with her not expecting a dragon made out of water with glowing yellow eyes. It roared and charged at her, with her caught off guard in awe at seeing the water dragon as it slammed down into her. Naruto immediately dodged a ki blast and looked to see her holding her arm as it was bleeding slightly. He took advantage of her state and brought his hands together, forming a familiar blue orb. Kamehameha, he said as the blast headed straight towards her. With no choice, she brought her one good arm to shield herself, hoping to lessen the blast as it impacted on her, causing a MIV explosion. When everything settled down, he could see her form was on the ground, face down, unconscious. He breathed a sigh of relief as he deactivated his Rinne Sharingan and approached Jine. Still cautious in case she tried something, he crouched down and pressed his two fingers on her neck to check for a pulse, and she was still alive. As he was looking at her prone form, he saw something on the back of her neck that was strange. It looked to be some C that seemed to be put on her. He'd take her to Bulma since she's better with their technology than he was. Naruto picked her up bridal style and continued his journey towards Bulma to check on her and now have her look at the circa. It was an hour later when he had made it to the cave that she was at. He was glad that she was here, as she wouldn't know what to do with Jine. Bulma, are you here? He asked when she walked out of the house. Naruto, who's that and what are you doing with her? She asked. noticing he was carrying an unconscious woman. She's a Saiyan like me who was working for Frieza, but that's not why she's here. I noticed something on the back of her neck and would like you to check it out because I don't know what it is. He quickly explained as she nodded, but was now curious about their new guest. Do you know her name? Also set her on the couch here, so I can take a look. She led them to the living room where he could set her down. Her name is Jine. I'll lay her on her side so you can get a look at the sea. He said, doing what she suggested and put her on her side and held her there, so Bulma could get a good look at it. Bulma was getting a look at it and coming up with different ideas as to what it could be, but first thing first was she needed to remove it, since obviously it was hidden for a reason. She got some pincers out that would be small enough to grab it and it wasn't hard to pull off, but it did make Jine fidget a bit from the pull. I'll have to study this in depth if I'm going to figure out everything about this thing, since I have no idea what it was, but based on where it was hidden, it was placed there by Frieza if I had to guess. Bulma explained. Thanks babe. While you work on that, I'll give you an update on what's been going on lately. He said, when he heard a groan coming from Jine who was stirring and looking to be waking up. Where am I? She asked groggily. Easy there. You're in our capsule house that I took you to after our fight. Naruto said. Fight? I don't remember fighting you or anyone for that matter, but my body hurts a lot though. Who are you exactly? Jine asked, confused about what was going on. She had no idea what was happening and who this person was. Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki is my name and I'm a Saiyan like you. Do you remember anything if you don't remember fighting me? He asked, having an idea of what could have happened. Well, I was in my house cooking dinner when some of Frieza's soldiers barged in and told me that I was needed for an experiment, but I said no and tried to fight back when they attacked me, but I hadn't fought in a long time, so I was knocked out quickly. After that, I don't remember anything, she explained, confusion and anger on her face. That bastard. Naruto growled, pissed off that Frieza had her practically as a slave as he put her through mind control. What is it? She asked. Sit down. You should get comfortable. This may take a while to explain everything that's happened. He said, confusing her, but she did as told and listened as he had explained what had happened and what had been going on for over the years. How Frieza put her through mind control, forcing her to serve him for years, the destruction of planet Vegeta, how there were only a small handful of Saiyans left, and the fight they just had. It was so much for her to take in. Her home was gone. What about her husband and son? Are they okay and safe? Who was this Saiyan that had rescued her from her slavery? She'd never seen a Saiyan that had red tips in his hair before. It was really strange, but she had to admit he did make him look unique, and with those whisker marks are different too. I know it's a lot to take in, but you're free now to do whatever you want to do. He said, hoping to cheer her up in some way. Everyone I knew is gone. What about my son and husband? Do you know if they're alright or alive for that matter? She asked quietly, with her voice cracking a little at the revelations. I don't know. Who are your husband and son? Do you remember their names? He asked. She was thinking about it, but only the name of her husband was coming to mind, but not her son's name, making her frustrated at not being able to remember it. My husband's name was Bardock, but I can't remember my son's name. She said, sadness in her voice. Vegeta might know since he's aware of all the survivors, but we'd have to talk to him about it after we deal with Frieza. He said as Bulma walked back in. Glad to see our guest is awake. How are you feeling? She asked, but saw Naruto wince, raising an eyebrow in curiosity. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about everything I've been told. Can I get a few minutes to myself? She asked, wanting to be alone right now. Yeah, we'll give you some space, but before that, here. He handed her a senzu bean. Eat this, it'll help you recover quickly. He smiled at her, who nodded and did as told. But what about your injuries? Bulma asked when they walked away. I'm healed already thanks to Matabi and her chakra along with my Uzumaki genes. Both go a long way. He told her. Do you think she'll be okay? She just found out that she's been practically a slave for Frieza all this time and has lost everything. I'd be pretty upset if I was in her shoes. Bulma frowned at the thought. I think so. If my hunch is right, then she'll have someone that can help her. He smiled at the thought. What do you mean? The blue-haired scientist asked, confusedly. It's not a lot, but it's there. There's some resemblance between her and an orange GI wearing Saiyan we both know. He grinned, knowing that Goku had some family still. What? She whispered loudly, not wanting to scare Jin. It's not much, but I have a feeling that is his mother. I just know it and I'm sure Goku will be happy to know that his mother is alive. He smiled at the thought of them reuniting. It would be a nice moment for the two. True, but what do we do now? You guys still have Frieza to deal with, right? Bulma asked nervously, knowing that the tyrant will be hard to handle. We make him pay for what he did to me along with my home. Jin said, walking in having heard the question asked. Very true. He'll pay for everything he's done to the Namex, Planet Vegeta, and others that he's made suffer. Naruto stopped when he and Jin felt the energy spike, causing them to stiffen. Frieza? Bulma asked, seeing this. They nodded as they prepared to take off when Bulma grabbed his wrist, getting his attention and kissed him on the lips. Good luck, she said. He nodded as she watched him and Jin fly off. Ready for some payback? He grinned when she grinned back with a nod. Oh, I'm more than ready. I have some anger I need to get out, and punching Frieza is exactly what I need. Well, let's go. The fighting seems to have started and we need to hurry and help the others. Naruto told her as she nodded, and they flew faster. They got there and Frieza looked completely different from before. He was much taller, that was obvious. His head was much longer now, his shoulders had straightened out, he had 5 spikes coming out of his back, and seemed to be missing a piece of his tail. Overall he looked terrifying, but this didn't deter them from fighting him. Getting a good look at everyone, Gohan and Krillin looked okay for the most part, but were terrified. Vegeta was the same, but he could see he was plotting something. Caulifla and Kale had worried expressions on their faces too, seeing what was going on. Dend was there for some reason along with another Namekian who must have been Piccolo, and he could sense he was much stronger than before. The one thing that was bothering him though was, where the hell was Goku at? He'd have to ask the others about it, but for now they'd see what was going on before jumping in. He looks like a disgusting bastard. I thought he was ugly before, but now he just looks horrendous, Naruto said with Jin giggling at the comment. I know. Are these your friends you mentioned that were with you? She asked. He nodded, confirming her question. They are. Well, most of them as my girlfriends are with them too. Not sure where me and Vegeta stand at this point. He shrugged, not sure as he continued to stare at the tyrant. Let's see what Frieza can do in this form. Although, I wasn't aware that he could transform, that doesn't mean shit. He commented with determination. I see, was all she said. They waited and it didn't take long for the action to start again. Piccolo had impressive speed, being able to counter Frieza's power, able to avoid him, but it was not long for Frieza to outspeed him, and not only that, Frieza was playing with him the whole time. He shot off several beams from his fingers with Piccolo not able to dodge them and couldn't do anything against the attacks. This was the time for Naruto and Jin to make their move. They nodded at each other before vanishing from their spot as Frieza was all of a sudden sent flying away from Piccolo, where Jin appeared where he was heading and kicked him in the back of the head, sending him crashing into the ground. What the? Krillin asked, having seen the whole thing along with Vegeta. Seems we made it just in time. A familiar voice said, getting their attention. They turned to see Naruto there with a smirk on his face. You idiot. We were dead already and now you'll be joining us. Vegeta yelled at him, but saw Jin and was surprised at seeing another Saiyan. Who is she? He asked. Hello. You must be Prince Vegeta. I'm Jin and unfortunately I've been working with Frieza as her second in command apparently. Jin said, making him tense. What? He shouted in disbelief. Yeah. Although, it wasn't her choice though. Frieza was using technology to have her under his control. She had no free will, so don't blame her for what happened when she wasn't there herself. Naruto said, making it clear to him not to try something against her. Frieza jumped out of the ground with annoyance on him. Yo, up here. Naruto called out, causing him to look up to see Naruto and his second in command with him who had an angry expression on her face. Jin, what is the meaning of this? Frieza yelled in anger seeing her betray him. I dare because of what you did to me. You took me away and put me under mind control for years. It was thanks to Naruto that I'm free from you. Jin yelled at her former boss who growled at the loss of someone, but smirked. Oh, so you know, huh? Well, I had to do something since nothing else would work to make you submit to me. Oh well, it's not much of a loss, but I will make that monkey pay for ruining my plans. He said as a snarl appeared on his face, glaring at Naruto. Frieza appeared in front of Naruto punching him in the chest sending him away, but wasn't done as he flew after him, but Jin got in the way wanting payback as she uppercutted him in the stomach, that made him spit out saliva, but wasn't done yet as she kneed him face, breaking his nose in the process that gave off a crunch sound. Frieza reacted by jumping back with an annoyed expression before he held out his finger and started shooting ki beams, hoping to kill her. She was dodging them, but with some difficulty, but wasn't deterred. She made her way towards him while dodging them until she was close enough where she shot out her own ki blasts. Frieza was doing the same, realizing that his beams weren't working. This caused MIV explosions with their blasts hitting each other making the ground shake from the tremor. Jin vanished from her spot before she reappeared behind Frieza bringing her hands together and sending them to his head, but he turned around and blocked it with his arms crossed over his head, but his feet went further into the ground from the impact. Jin felt her ankle get grabbed. Glancing down she saw that his tail had latched onto it. He smirked before he flung her away from him into the ground, but didn't stop as he continued to slam her around on the ground making her wince in pain. She was able to form a small ki orb in her hand and tried slamming it on his tail, but he let go giving her the chance to backflip away from him giving her a chance to breathe a little. She regained her composure and vanished along with Frieza meeting in the middle with their fists meeting as they attempted to overpower the other. Jin realizing that they weren't moving, she went for a roundhouse kick, forcing him to let go, but was too late as it connected with his ribs pushing him back. She didn't give him a chance to react as she appeared in front of him with her hands apart as a pink basketball-sized orb appeared. Mother Nature. She let loose the attack at point-blank range at the tyrant who cried as the attack hit him causing an explosion in the area, forcing Krillin, Gohan and Den to hold onto something to avoid flying off. Piccolo, Caulifla and Kale kept themselves on the ground with them planting their feet. Vegeta was gritting his teeth in anger at seeing someone take on Frieza when he couldn't. He needed to get his plan into action involving the kid Namekian, so he could become the legendary Super Saiyan. Jin waited for the smoke to clear, still having her guard up and was proved right as Frieza was still alive, but had some injuries on him, nothing extreme though. Naruto landed next to her with a serious look on his face. Looks like you did a number on him. Although he looks more pissed off than actually hurt. You're good, he praised, making her give a small smile, but then had a serious look. It doesn't look like I did much on him. He must be hiding something despite all that had happened. She said with him nodding in agreement. You worms. I will not be beaten by mere monkeys. I am Lord Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe. He roared in complete anger at the emberment he's been put through so far. He took a deep breath before he started chuckling and turned into laughing, putting everyone on edge not knowing what's going on, but they had a bad feeling about it. Oh ho ho ho, Before you get too excited, let's move on to my final transformation and then you can see what terror will really be like. Frieza said, getting looks of horror from Gohan, Krillin, Dende, Caulifla, Kale, and Piccolo, while Jin and Naruto were expecting this already. Vegeta was looking at Dende then to Krillin with a smirk as he flew over to him to tell him about his plan. Ha! Frieza yelled as his aura and power skyrocketed with his body being enveloped in a light. What do we do, Piccolo? Gohan asked, frightened at what he was seeing. There's absolutely nothing we can do against this kind of power, but Naruto and his friends seem to not be as affected as us. Piccolo said, looking over at the two Saiyans. They're crazy if they're not worried like we are. Krillin shouted in disbelief. We haven't seen all that Naruto is capable of. I never have once seen him go all out, so this could be the reason why he's not worried. Caulifla said in thought. I wonder, she thought to herself, wondering what her boyfriend is up to. Baldy, I need you for something. Vegeta called out, getting his attention. That part goes as canon with Krillin nearly killing Vegeta. As Naruto and Jin were watching Frieza finish his transformation, Vegeta landed right next to them with a smirk on his face, ready for action. What took you so long? Naruto smirked at the prince, who smirked back at him. I was being healed by the Namekian, so I can fight Frieza. I'm going to fight him, so don't get in my way. Vegeta ordered, watching the transformation still, not noticing that Frieza set his sights on Dende. No, I owe him for what he did to me, so I'll be fighting him with you. Don't even try to change my mind as it's final. She argued, her tone spoke with conviction that no one could argue against. Fine. Just don't get in my way. The prince said, letting her fight him too, as she did have the right after being enslaved for years by him. The light faded with him finishing his transformation as the dust was clouding everyone's vision. The dust finally settled, revealing Frieza, but again he looked completely different than before. He was smaller, the same size of his first form, his body was entirely covered in white armor with purple orbs on his shoulders and abs. His expression was stoic as he held out his finger, firing off a beam that no one saw, not expecting it. It flew past everyone and an explosion occurred. It hit someone. They all turned around to see it was Dende that was hit. Dende. Gohan and Krillin shouted, seeing their friend die. Now then, no one will be healing you anymore from this point on. Frieza smirked cruelly with an evil grin.